The Orlando Magic have 2 wins under their belt, but what do Magic wins look like? That's something we're going to think about, plus some lingering concerns as the Magic get set for the real test on Monday. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are the Locked On Magic. It is October 29th. It will be October 30th, 2023. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic have 2 wins under their belt. So what do Orlando Magic wins look like? I think that's a fair thing to ask after 2 wins with 80 more to go. We'll chat about the common themes of the Magic's 2 victories and what they'll need to keep doing to win more games, plus the lingering concerns we have as the competition's about to get a little tougher. We'll talk about the Magic's game against the Los Angeles Lakers as well coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. The Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. This episode is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA. That's LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Okay. It's important to remember we're just 2 games into this thing. Everybody's feeling good. Everybody's feeling happy. No one can be too upset. The Magic have accomplished their goals. The best thing that could happen is the Magic are 2-0. The Magic are 2-0. So let's enjoy that. Let's respect that. Let's have that. But understand. But put it in the proper context. You know, they played the Rockets. That's on my TV behind me right here. Tie game, middle of the 4th quarter as I'm recording this against the Warriors. They played the Rockets. They played the Blazers. 2 teams that are probably not going to be among the best teams in the league. I think that's safe to say. So you take that for what it is. Still, as we've all kind of noted, it's better to be sitting here 2-0, having beaten the teams that you kind of should beat, than to be 1-1 and be thinking, well, what's real and what's not? Perhaps we could still sit here and ask what's real and what's not, because we don't know. You know, last time the Magic started 2-0 was 2021. They ended up going 4-0 that year for the first time in franchise history, and then won 18 more games the rest of the year or something like that. And that's obviously the COVID-shortened season. There's obviously the injuries to Markelle Fultz. A lot of things happened in 2021 we don't need to talk about. But that point does remain that it is just 2 games. Still, we need to learn from each game. We need to sit here and say, okay, what can we draw out from this game? What's important about this game? What matters about this game? And what's going to help us grow and develop? What's going to help this team get to where it needs to be, where they're winning 38, 39, 40, 45, 48, however many games left. We are starting to see patterns, and you kind of look at it like, 2 dots can be connected by a line. 2 makes a trend, 3 makes a pattern. So we are beginning to understand who this team is. And I think maybe now isn't like the perfect time to do this, but what do Magic wins look like? Because we had 2 very different games to start the season. We had a blowout win over the Houston Rockets. We had a gutsy, gritty, ugly game against the Portland Trailblazers. And both of them told us something about this team. The most important thing is the thing that I talked about on Friday nights or Saturday mornings episode of Locked On Magic. If you missed it, I am going to do weekend episodes after games. You can go back into our archive. You could go back into the archives and listen to it if you haven't already. Good times, like right after the game ended. As I said then, learn lessons while winning. But we could clearly see this team is going to be as defensive-minded as they have said they would be. This team is going to lean on its defense to win games. And they're going to do it in the exact way they told us. Early season stat alert here. The Orlando Magic are giving up 32 points per game in the paint this season. That's second in the league. I care less about the number because that's going to fluctuate wildly, and more about the rank at this point. Because 2 games at least shows a level of consistency and shows where we're ranking among the rest of the league at this point. Everyone's stats are going to be wild. Like, again, early season stat alert. It is what it is. But this is the central theme of the Orlando Magic's philosophy. Jamal Mosley has said it. We want to be a team that attacks the rim, that attacks the paint. We want to be a team that protects the rim, protects the paint. And so for me, when I look at a box score, when I think about, okay, what is a sure sign that the Magic are going to win a game? The first thing that I look to is at the very bottom of the official box score sheet, if you know how to get it, points in the paint. If the Magic win that, keep their opponent under 45. Let's say 45. They haven't given up more than 40 so far this year. Keep that under 45, and then all of a sudden you got something interesting. That's a pretty sure sign that the Magic are going to win. To this point, we got to give Wendell Carter a ton of credit so far. Let me pull up the stat here because I've said it like 20 times today and have not memorized it. According to Second Spectrum, let's see, where'd it go? Here it is. According to Second Spectrum, teams are shooting just 3 for 12 at the rim against Wendell Carter. And look, he was around 56%, so that's going to change. That number's going to change. But so far this season, Wendell Carter has been locked down at the rim. And 6 attempts per game against him is a pretty big number. He is someone that is not a huge rim protector or a huge shot blocker, but he has been locked down at the rim. And if that's something that continues, then yes, this team is going to be really good. We've seen Jalen Suggs be a disruptor on defense. So what do Magic wins look like? Well, it starts on the defensive end. Obviously, Orlando hasn't given up 100 points in the game yet. That's going to change. But that's been the hallmark of the team so far. And guess what? That's the identity that Jamal Mosley wants this team to have. That's who this team is ultimately going to be. So as much as it is not always the prettiest basketball, it's certainly, maybe not what the TV people want, this team is going to go as far as its defense goes. And so far, teams haven't shot the ball well against them. Obviously, we saw Houston make 5 3-pointers in the first 5 minutes of the third quarter on Wednesday in the opener. That got them back in the game, and Orlando put their foot down and won that thing and played with a ton of poise. They played with a ton of poise against the Blazers, too. They gave up multiple double-digit leads. They never really could run completely away, and yet they stood tall. They won the game in the end. They took care of their business. To me, that's really impressive. And that poise and maturity, I think, is something this Magic team started to show a little bit more toward the end of the season, but was inconsistent last year. And to see the Magic show it twice in 2 games so far, I think is a good thing. I'm not going to knock a good thing when I see it. And knowing that you need that poise to defend at a higher level, it's a good thing because that's the backbone of your defense, that no matter what all chaos is going around you, your defense takes care of the work. Your defense is what leads. The Magic are leading with their defense. And obviously, that's been the biggest takeaway from the season so far, from 2 games. 2 games, not a lot. This is what Magic wins are going to look like. It's always going to be about the defense because as improved as this offense might be, and I'm going to chat about the offense here in a minute, as improved as this offense might be, this team is going to bet on its defense to win at ball games. And that's been the story so far too. So about that offense then, let's chat about lingering concerns, talk a little bit about where the offense stands through 2 games, and how the Magic can still keep building. We'll get to that coming up here and preview tonight's game against the Los Angeles Lakers as well. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our friends over at PrizePicks. Look, daily fantasy games can be so confusing. They can. It's just true. They got the salary cap thing. You're not quite sure who's scoring points. You want simple because simple means you win. And PrizePicks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season and this basketball season. All you have to do is select 2 or more players, pick more or less than their projected stats, and place your entry. It's really that easy. PrizePicks offers so many great options for you, whether you're trying to play NBA, NFL, really any sport, and any stat category too. You could do points, you could do rebounds, you could do points, rebounds, and assists combined. They do that. They offer projections on that too. All you have to do is pick the player you want, look at the projection, and decide whether they will get more or less than that projection. And then you enter that into your little pool, into your entry, and then you have your chance to win. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. And look, if you're doing a PrizePicks entry of 4 or 5, all you have to do is get 3 right to win. With the Taco Tuesday, they essentially, for the most part, give you 1. It's really that easy, and it's absolutely the best way to go. PrizePicks now even offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this season. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. That's LockedOnNBA with 2 N's, LockedOnNBA, and use code, same deal, LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. The NBA season is still new, so get the lowdown on every team in the NBA. The Locked On Ultimate NBA Season Preview is here to do that. It's a 6-episode series with all 30 of our Locked On NBA team shows. From contenders to tankers, we go in-depth into the biggest storylines heading into the season. If you want to know the lowdown on all 30 teams in the NBA, the Ultimate NBA Season Preview is for you. Catch all 6 episodes on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, go back into our archives from right before the season started. You can hear my contribution with the up-and-comers, the comers and goers. I forget what we titled the episode, but I'm not in the tanking group this year, which is very exciting for me. You can check that out on our feed as well. Check it out. The Ultimate NBA Season Preview is here. When we look back at the projections for the season, the Orlando Magic were a trendy pick to make the play-in, and you ask anyone, most of them will say, look, this Magic team is coming. I don't know when they're coming. I don't know when they're going to make that breakthrough, but this is a group that has talent, and it has a lot of pieces that can come together very, very quickly. I think most of us would agree with that. I think a lot of people would agree that this is a team that has a lot of potential, and it's not a matter of if they make the playoffs and make a long playoff run. It's a matter of when. We can all see it. We can all sense it. We can all feel it. But there were some doubts about this season. Some of it founded, some of it not so founded, I would say. A lot of people questioning the guard rotation, a lot of people questioning the offense, especially. And whether how far and how good you think the Magic can be is probably based on how developed you think this team's offense can be. I will sit here and say I was glowing about the offense in the preseason. I loved what I saw offensively from this team in the preseason and really thought, okay, if we'll see what real defenses do against this, but if the Magic bring this intensity, this togetherness into the regular season, we're going to have a much stronger offense. And look, I will stand by this prediction, and we're too early in the season to really care so much about the numbers, but the Magic's offense is doing fine. I will sit here and say, I do think the Magic end their streak. They will be outside the bottom 10 in offense. They will be in the top 20. First time that'll happen since 2012. I do think that's going to happen. But if there is still a lingering concern about this team, and I think Friday night began to show hints of that, it's that the offense can stagnate and that the offense may not be able to execute at the highest levels. The biggest concern for the Orlando Magic has been turnovers. And to their credit, 18.1% turnover rate all of last year, 15.9% turnover rate this year. That is a healthy improvement. They're about middle of the pack in the league for the start of the season. Again, small sample size theater here. But if that continues, if the Magic are able to kind of stick around 15 turnovers per game, 15% turnover rate, they'll probably be fine. That'll probably be enough to help their offense just enough. Again, like I said last week, turnovers are just taking away shot attempts. But the question is, can the Magic sustain this offense, can sustain whatever they're doing offensively without consistent three-point shooting? And that is still the big question. The Magic have not shot the ball well. And so far, they've been fine offensively. They got a 113, I think it's a 113.9 offensive rating, but they did just come off a game where they scored only 39 points in the second half against the Portland Trail Blazers team whose defense is inconsistent, to be polite. Now, again, they won the game. That's all we're going to care about in the end. That's all that matters. But at this early stage of the season, we are looking for ways for this team to overcome. So far this season, the Orlando Magic are 18 for 62 from three, 29%. That's not good, to say the least. Now, I think the quality of those three-point shots have been fine. They're averaging 31 threes per game again, which is a low number. They were at, I think, 38 in the first game. They were like at 28 in the that math doesn't add up, but they're taking they at least showed hints that they are willing to take more threes. And obviously, but I didn't check. Like, I'm not going to check live here on camera, but the Magic took 9 corner three-point attempts in the game against the Rockets. They made only 1. And so, corner threes, I've been big on this thing because that's a sign that, A, you're passing the ball because you can only get corner threes off passes. And those are the highest percentage threes in the game because it's closer. Those are high-quality three-point attempts. You want those three-point attempts. Magic averaged 6.3 per game last year. They got 9 in the opener. That's pretty good. Again, they were at 12 per game, 6.1 per game in the first half of their preseason games. We expected that number to come down. If they're getting 9 corner threes per game, they're probably doing something right. I would also note that the Magic, unlike in the preseason when they were passing the ball really, really well, have kind of gone back to the dribble handoff-based offense and are not passing the ball nearly as well. According to early stats, the Magic are back in kind of they're better than they were last year, but still in the bottom 10 in the league in passes per game, and that's just raw passes per game, according to Second Spectrum. That's not necessarily correlative with better offense, but I do think more effective passing. I do think more ball movement is ultimately going to help this Magic team. You can watch the games. They're not passing the ball nearly at the level or the smoothness that they were passing the ball with in preseason. Again, some of that is defenses are tightening up. Some of that is the Magic are running some different stuff, more outside their base kind of stuff. They're kind of, again, my concern is they've reverted a little bit back to the kind of ball, the ball stopping, dribble handoff type offense that they ran. I know during the Portland game on Friday, I was really frustrated because they weren't getting into their sets quickly enough. A lot of times getting in their sets at starting their sets at 14, 13 seconds. They need to be at 18. They need to be starting their sets at 18. When teams talk about pace, that's what they're talking about. When do you initiate your set? And Portland did a good job putting some token pressure the same way the Magic like to put token pressure on guards to slow down that offense and make sure that they're not running their stuff really, really well. Orlando is at their best, though, when they're getting downhill, getting to the basket, getting to the rim, and passing the ball out of that. That's when they're at their best. They're not at their best in the half court when they have to kind of try and wedge themselves and find some space. They got into a rhythm a little bit at points in the game against Portland, but not consistent enough. And so at the end of the day, the Magic are ranked pretty fine offensively overall. Scoring 116 points in a low possession game against the Rockets will do that. So we're still learning about this team. We're still learning what this team needs to do. And the lack of three-point shooting, the lack of three-point makes at this point, is at least marginally concerning. Again, we never expected this team to be a dominant three-point shooting team. That's not who this team is. We never expected that. We did expect some improvement. And while I think the quality of the three-point shots has gone up and the kinds of three-pointers they're taking have improved, the results aren't there yet. And so the question is, can the Magic keep up the other elements of their offense? Because they're getting to the line plenty still. Can the Magic keep up these other elements of their offense that are working while waiting for this three-point shot to turn? I think ESPN noted in their impressions of the first week, there was a lot of hand-wringing about the Rockets, and they're like, look, the Rockets got beat by 30 and the Magic didn't even shoot well from three. It wasn't three-point luck that they lost by 30, and that was a big concern for the Rockets. The Magic are winning these games without the three-point shot. Can they shoot better? They certainly can shoot better than 29%. We expect them to be at like 33. If they can get to 34, 35%, that's a huge win for this team. So I think there are better three-point days ahead, and that's what I think we're really going to figure out what this offense can be, and again, what the level is. We're still 2 games into this thing. We don't know what the baseline is, what our level is quite yet. But again, like I said, we can see some patterns developing. Obviously, though, we're seeing these patterns develop against teams like Houston, against teams like Portland. Though, like, no offense to those guys. Love my guy Jackson from Locked On Rockets. Love Mike from Locked On Blazers. That's not the teams the Magic want to be competing against. Those are the teams the Magic expect to beat. What the Magic have to do to beat the Lakers and why this game is going to tell us a lot. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So I don't think they posted the Magic Lakers line yet because the Lakers play tonight against the Kings. They're playing right now as I'm recording this at least. So I don't have that to share with you. We'll have the graphic up around noon, a little bit after noon on Monday. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NBA season right. Continue your NFL season right and check it out today. FanDuel's official partner of the NFL. All right, the Orlando Magic versus the Los Angeles Lakers as the road trip continues out west. Who knows what's real at this point? Like I spent 23 minutes here talking about patterns and what we've seen from the team so far, but we don't know what's real quite yet. We don't know, like, certainly against quality competition. And so this game against the Los Angeles Lakers is a really, really interesting game. To me, it's almost not about winning and losing. Like, I'm going to be perfectly honest. Yes, you want to win. Wins matter. Wins count. But this early in the season, it's still not quite about your opponent. It's still about you. And so what I want to see is how the Magic execute against a team like the Lakers. Let me put my keys to the game up here. It's a lot of stuff we've talked about already. The Magic have to win the paint. I'll start at the bottom. For the sake of consistency, I will start with number 3. Win the paint is obviously the big thing. You're going to see that key a lot. Win the paint. Control the glass, number 1 on my list here. Magic really struggled with offensive rebounds, giving up offensive rebounds in the loss and the win over the Blazers. That's been something that's been inconsistent about this group for the last few years. It's going to be a big part of this game. The ability to control the glass, facing up against a guy like Anthony Davis is going to be a challenge. And it's going to be a huge challenge for Wendell Carter. But the big key to me is number 2, smooth operators on offense. Can the Magic execute their offense efficiently and effectively against a good defensive team in the Lakers? Here's some early season stats for you. The Orlando Magic are 5th in the league entering Sunday's games in deflections, according to NBA.com's Hustle Stats. They average 18 deflections per game. that tracks, right? The Magic are a really good defensive team. They're really disruptive. They're really long. We expect that. That Jalen Suggs had 4 steals in Friday's game. He's averaging 3 point something deflections per game. He's like in the 20. He's like in the 20s or teens, I think, in terms of deflections per game. This is a disruptive team. This is a team that's going to get after you and really make things hard. So are the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are 4th in the league at 18.5 deflections per game. Again, entering Sunday's games. Same deal with actually Tuesday's opponent, the LA Clippers. It's going to be a consistent theme for the next 2 nights. The Clippers lead the league with 21.5 deflections per game, according to NBA.com's Hustle Stats. Now, those numbers aren't everything. Just because you're not, Steve Clifford, we used to talk to Steve Clifford. I would give him the deflection stats from NBA.com. He'd say, oh, no, our numbers are different. So coaches count deflections differently than the NBA's website does, but it gives us a snapshot of what these teams are doing defensively. The Magic are a team that is very concerned with turnovers. And so being able to execute their offense against a quality defense is going to be the big challenge. I talked about those lingering concerns about the offense. This is a game for the Magic to prove themselves. Again, it's almost not as important whether they win or lose. It is important that they win or lose, but it's not as important. What we need to see at this stage of the season is that they can do it. They can execute at a higher level. They can play with a team that is expected to be in the playoffs. And frankly, a Lakers team that expects to compete for a championship. You want to split those games. Like if you're 500 against the best teams in the league, especially in a position where the Magic are going to be at, you're probably going to be okay at the end of the day. Orlando's proven to some extent that they can beat the teams they should. They did not have their best game Friday night. They still won that game. Little nervy, but fairly comfortably. How do they do against a quality opponent? And again, it's easy to get up for the Lakers. It's easy to get up for playing at Crypto.com Arena. That's one of the premier stadiums in the league, a stadium that everyone dreams about playing in. It's not, no offense to the Amway Center. That building is not at the level of the building formerly known as the Staples Center. This is a chance for the Magic to prove themselves. Can Wendell Carter stand up to Anthony Davis? He's going to have his hands full. So can everyone kind of fill in for the defense that Wendell Carter may not be able to bring because he's got to worry about Davis? Can Franz or Paolo do anything with LeBron James? That's a real question we're going to have to ask. Is Jalen Suggs going to be able to neutralize Austin Reeves after what Reeves did to the Magic in the game in Los Angeles last year? These are all legitimate. These are all fair questions that we don't know about this team because, frankly, the best player they've played so far is Fred VanVleet. No offense to Jalen Green. No offense to DeAndre Ayton. The best player they played so far is Fred VanVleet. And Fred VanVleet's a very good player, and Dylan Brooks probably had the best game for the Rockets in that game. But he's not LeBron James. He's not Anthony Davis, who, despite that scoreless half in the game against the Nuggets, is having a very good start to the season. A very, very impactful player. Now, the Lakers will be on a back-to-back. They're playing in Sacramento as I'm recording this. So if there's a major injury that changes everything or a player is held out because it's a back-to-back or whatever, follow me on Twitter to get the latest info on that. This is a game where the Magic have to show what they're capable of. We've been saying it. I've been saying it to everyone who will listen. Like, yeah, the Magic are 2-0, but we're going to find out a lot about this team on Monday and Tuesday night in Los Angeles. We're going to find out just how competitive, I don't want to say just how ready, but just where this team is at compared to 2 teams that are championship level teams. That's, again, if they lose both these games, not the end of the world. Learning lessons, important experiences, important things to say, okay, we've still got work to do. And look, even after the win against Portland, we all know this team still has work to do. This is just a small measuring stick to say, okay, how do we measure up against these teams? What do we really need to work on? And can we elevate our game to reach theirs? Because these are the teams we're chasing. They're in the other conference, but they're at the level we're chasing as a Magic team right now. And that's what this game and that's what the next game is going to be all about at Crypto.com Arena for the Orlando Magic. Again, I'm going to be contradictory here. It's not so much about winning and losing these games. You want to win them, obviously. I hope they can win them. It's about showing they can compete at that level. And if they can, that's going to be a huge confidence boost for this team as they finish this road trip, because no offense to the Utah Jazz, that's a game I expect the Magic to win. Won't be easy, but I expect them to win that game. And then coming back home for a big homestand to start building your record up a little bit. And I know that homestand includes a game in Mexico City, but we got to start, the first part of this Magic schedule is really, really tough. Finding wins, starting to build confidence, starting to build that cache of wins is going to be really, really important as we start to see how these play-in races start to develop. And obviously, the in-season tournament's going to be right around the corner too. Those games are going to feel very big as well. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You, of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of the places and all podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter and get in-game updates at OMagicDaily. Don't forget to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub. That's patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. On the Patreon page today, I posted my plays of the game from Friday's game against Portland Trailblazers. I broke down Wendell Carter's verticality and how Jalen Suggs is just a chaos agent on defense. You can check that out by subscribing to my Patreon page at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For my everyday crew, you can check. For my everyday crew, we're going to talk about the Magic's game against the Los Angeles Lakers tomorrow. Always fun. Stay up late. That post that will be going up around 2:30 in the morning. I'm not joking. I'm going to get that out to you shortly after, not shortly after, but after the game ends. So until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Ross and Mike. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.